Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to take a look at a company that we haven't looked at in a little while, and it is a company that is fairly hard to find available in the United States. This is from Recur, and as you can probably tell right away, just by the appearance of the dinosaur, it is their Carnotaurus. This Carnotaurus, I believe, was their new figure from last year. There was actually quite a bit of new figures that they had released last year, and personally I really did like a lot of them. I thought a lot of the figures that I had seen were really nice looking overall, and quite possibly the best year that Recur has ever had as far as releases go. I unfortunately did not get a hold of any of them until right now, when I have this Carnotaurus in my hand, which I purchased from Amazon, as Amazon does have pretty much, I believe, their entire 2019 year on there available to buy right now, or at least actually Recur themselves, I believe, sell through Amazon. But regardless, that does help to make them available here in the United States, because otherwise they're very hard to find, and aside from Amazon, I really don't know anywhere that you can pick them up for the most part, except maybe DeJenkins.com, because he is absolutely awesome at stocking pretty much everything. But regardless, I immediately did want this Carnotaurus ever since I had seen the initial images of it, and I just never got around to picking it up, but I always knew I was going to at some point, and I just recently did, finally, after getting a few gift cards. I had a little extra money on Amazon, and scrolled through some of the Recur releases, and I picked up this and the Oranosaurus, which that review will be coming up very soon as well. So let's go ahead and get a closer look at this beautiful 2019 Carnotaurus from Recur. So taking a look at the head sculpt, you can see some really nice scale detail all throughout the head sculpt of the Carnotaurus. Even the nostril you can take note to right there. Up on the snout of the dinosaur, you can see that there's kind of like some nice scoots that run around the eye socket area, as well as kind of some osteoderm-like scoots up there at the top of the head. You can see the lower jaw also sports some pretty nice detailing to it. Some fairly nice scale work there. Running down into the throat as well, you can pick up on those scales. You can see the inside of the mouth is painted with like almost a maroonish type of a color, and the teeth are painted quite nicely for the most part. Recur always has this very same sort of like a trademark look to their figures with this kind of soft feel, and that's the same type of an appearance that you have here in the mouth area, but I think the teeth actually look really quite nice and are painted definitely quite nicely. And you can see the tongue inside the mouth as well. As far as the rest of the detailing inside the mouth, you can make it out in there. It's just kind of hard to get into as the mouth isn't that huge to get into. You can see the size of the head is definitely not gigantic here to get a good view of what's inside the mouth, but you can see it pretty well actually, that there is some fairly nice looking detail. And the Recur figures themselves are definitely pretty large figures. It's just that Carnotaurus himself doesn't have the biggest head in the world. You can also see up here on the top of the head, again, some really nice kind of like armored osteoderm type of an appearance to the overall skin texture. You can also see that run up the bridge of the snout there, and you can also see that the horns up here on the top of the Carnotaurus are very nicely sculpted, beautifully painted, and they are given a gloss, so you can see, especially right here on this one, you can see it shining beautifully in the light as I turn it. That really helps to elaborate the horns and really make them jump out at you. The eyes are painted with an orange type of a coloration, and then you have a black pupil. They're nice and small, and they do look quite nice, and you can see overall that the dinosaur has a beautiful brown, and you could sort of see different variations of browns throughout. Not too much, but it's definitely there. You can also see some black spots that start to pick up here on the face. As we move back into the neck, once again, you can see that there's like these very nice osteoderms all over the dinosaur, and you can also see some ridges that run down along the spinal column. We do often see the osteoderm-like look very much so associated with Carnotaurus, so it is beautiful to see it here on this figure. You can see that the skin is really nicely stretching over here from the neck. Due to the Carnotaurus having its head there turned to the right, you can see that the skin is stretching really nicely here, so that was some beautiful attention to detail paid there by Recur. You can also see that black kind of continue to turn from spots to stripes, and it continues to run down the entire course of the body. You can see some beautiful detailing here in the throat, kind of really nicely depicting a lot of movement there as far as the skin in the throat area. Once you move back here into the body, you can see the shoulder blade a little bit there. You can also see the very nice small Carnotaurus arms. You can see the seam where they connect, but I don't think it's too distracting or anything that takes away from the figure at all. The skin detail is actually really beautifully done all throughout this Carnotaurus. There is just so much sculpt and detail as far as the scales go all over this figure, and you can see a really nice kind of like a reddish coloration that runs down along the middle of the spinal column of the Carnotaurus the entire way. It looks really, really cool. Starts right up here on the top of the head and then runs down the middle of the dinosaur all the way till about right here on the tail. This Carnotaurus is actually very similar, as far as I'm concerned, to the Safari LTD one because it has a very thick appearance to it, more so than that sleek, slender type of a Carnotaurus that we most often see. This one, again, is a very thick type of a Carnotaurus. You can actually see that the head sculpt, as far as the skull shape goes, is nice and thin and slender, but the overall body is quite thick, so I feel like it's a very well-fed Carnotaurus. You can see some very nice skin detail once again here as the skin is kind of pulling off of the body due to the leg pulling back and stretching the skin quite nicely. You can also take note to the really nice scaling here that runs all the way down here onto the underside of the Carnotaurus. Beautiful scaling all over the figure. Really nice skin detail pretty much everywhere that you can see. You can again pick up on the osteoderms that continue to litter the body everywhere. You can make out the muscle tone here though, really stressing the fact that the dinosaur is a powerful animal. You can see the seam here where the body connects the leg to the thigh area, and it's fairly noticeable, but I really don't think, once again, it takes away from the figure too much. From a distance, you don't notice it too badly, but again, it's not that big of a deal. It's kind of something that's inevitable. When you make figures with this kind of squishy type of material, you do tend to see the seams, so I think Recur did about as good of a job as possible when it comes to hiding the seams. You can pick up on some really, really nice scaling as we run down the leg, down here into the foot, and then it turns into like that beautiful scoot-like appearance down the toes and everything. Really nice paintwork once again, beautifully painted nails, given a very nice gloss, just like we saw up on the horns of the Carnotaurus. And you can see that the dew claw is painted, so they do a really good job, honestly, as far as the paintwork goes. I feel like it's very nicely done, not sloppy at all. As we come up here into the tail, once again, you can see some nice skin detail, kind of some wrinkling going on, actually quite a bit of wrinkling here on the underside of the tail. And then we run out the length of the tail. You can see that that skin texture continues to look really good as far as the scale work goes. And then we come out to a nice tip, a nice point here at the end of the tail, and you've got that striping that kind of runs along the entire body. Gives it a bit of a flashy look, but with really nice natural tones. Over here you can again see some really nice skin detail here in the neck. You can really see the skin creasing up right here, because again the Carnotaurus has its head turned in that direction, so it would be bunching the skin up there, and I think that was very nice detailing on the part of Recur once again to catch pretty much every ounce of the way the body would be reacting to the movement of the dinosaur throughout the sculpt of this Carnotaurus. Coming down here into the body, once again, you can see the arm, very nice and small, like you would expect to see. You can also see the seam a little bit there, but it's just barely noticeable. It's actually much better, I think, on this side than it was on the other side, and the other side was pretty decent. You can also see kind of the skin reacting here to the leg pushing into the body, so it's bunching the skin up there in the stomach. Looks very good as far as that goes. Again, you've got that beautiful skin detail, that beautiful scaling all over the Carnotaurus, the really nicely applied paint application. Again, nicely defined musculature over here in the thigh and calf region. You can, once again, pick up on the seam there, but it's not that big of a deal. And then coming down into the foot, this foot looks very good. Beautiful scoot-like appearance down the toes over here. Really nicely painted nails. And again, just like I was stating before, there's really no sloppiness on the figure at all. I feel like they've done a great job, even on the underside of the foot. Look at that beautiful detailing there of the skin of the underside of the foot. Absolutely phenomenal work, honestly, on the part of Recur. And then once we come back here, you can again see the skin kind of stretching off of the tail, because this leg is really pulling forward as the Carnotaurus is in quite the dynamic sort of an action pose. And then we run out the length of the tail, and it has a very nice, very thick tail to it, beautiful curve as you run out the length of the tail in a pretty much a realistic fashion. I don't see anything that's unrealistic about the positioning of the tail, and a beautiful point there at the end. So really, really fantastic Carnotaurus. As far as a size goes, from the tail, if we can get our tape measure to stay on it, to the snout, you are looking at just a hair under 11.5 inches, or about 29, almost a little over actually 29 centimeters. And then for a height, the highest point is going to be the head of the Carnotaurus, and you see that at about 4.5 inches, maybe a little bit more, or around 11 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, showing you just how large this Carnotaurus is. It really does sport some significant size to it, as pretty much every Recur figure that I've ever seen does. You can definitely see it has quite a bit of length as well, so really large Carnotaurus figure. If you're looking for a big Carno for your collection, this is definitely a good way to go, and you can really tell that next to these three figures right here. So this Recur Carnotaurus is definitely a beautifully done figure, and again, probably the best figure that I've seen from Recur. I think the pose of the Carnotaurus really does look quite nice as well. I think they did a very good job as far as depicting a pretty realistic pose for what you could see in a Carnotaurus. I love the fact that the arms are in a very natural position, and everything as far as the movement of the Carnotaurus, I feel like all the body parts are in very realistic areas, something that definitely isn't out of the realm of possibility for the movement of a Carnotaurus. Really nicely detailed as far as the skin kind of reacting to every single area that would show movement of the skin. Recur perfectly displayed that throughout the sculpt of the figure. I feel like the paint job as well is quite nicely done. It's nothing overly flashy over the top, but it's definitely good enough and really does look very natural on the figure. Nice natural looking tones of color, and everything on the figure definitely looks like body color and not just paint on a figure, so they did apply it really, really well. Again, the sculpt of the Carnotaurus does kind of depict this as a little bit of a thicker version of a Carnotaurus, very similar to what we had seen on the Safari LTD version, so it very much so looks like a very big, muscular animal with the way that Recur has depicted this overall, with the very big beefy appearance to the sculpt, and I actually do quite like that. Recur did a beautiful job on this figure overall, and as I said, this is much better than their older figures, which those were pretty good, but I feel like Recur is really starting to hit their stride now, and it makes me very excited to see what they have for us in store in the future. If you would like to pick this Carnotaurus up, I will include a link in the description to Amazon.com where I purchased mine, and you can pick up yours. So make sure you head to the description, head on over to Amazon, and buy this incredibly nice looking Carnotaurus from Recur. But before you do that, don't forget to please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.